Star Citizen is perhaps one of the most ambitious video games ever devised. A sci-fi sandbox epic that will allow players to pilot ships, explore a vast, persistent online universe, and engage in sometimes dizzying first-person shooting of stuff. It's being financed by the most successful crowdfunding campaign of all time, raising in excess of $100 million. And with that big budget comes a big development effort. The company behind it, Cloud Imperium, have studios in the USA, UK and Germany, all working on this game.
It is the perfect storm. It's a new IP, it's new technology, it's a new team.
We have a little bit of all development located here in LA. We've got concepting for characters, concepting for ships.
I'm sort of dealing with weapons.
We've got actual production of characters.
VFX.
We've got our animation director here. We've got our CG supervisor here.
Environments.
We've got the technical creation of our characters and how they move.
Is there anything else I've left out?
I visited 2 of Cloud Imperium studios, the first in Wilmslow in the UK. The designers, programmers and artists in this building all working on very small parts of what will become a much, much larger universe. So big, in fact, that the company behind it, Cloud Imperium, have got 4 different studios in 3 different countries. This is the Los Angeles studio, which is currently being made ready for all of the developers and designers to move in here. Designed for PCs, at the heart of Star Citizen are its spaceships. Big ships, small ships, lots and lots of different ships. Like many massively multiplayer online games, players can purchase in-game items using real money. In this game's case, it's spacecraft.
Say goodbye to the familiar and welcome the brand new Mustang, where risk meets reward.
Adverts reminiscent of car commercials tempt would-be pilots to part with cold, hard cash for the chance to own simulated ships like these. Hello there. I hope you don't mind me interrupting.
This is called the Art Pit, and basically I do ship concepts, so...
With the game still in development, the ships are the first taster that the gaming public has had of this title.
This is almost like, say you want to buy a 2020 Ferrari, but you know it's not going to come out for a few years, but you're really excited about it. This is like you're seeing the first images of what it's going to look like. For the most part, it's going to change a bit, but you know, this is like the original concept, and you're investing in that concept knowing you're going to get it down.
Your name's on the list, not just on the. Your name isn't just on the waiting list.
Right.
You actually part of the design
own
as well.
it.
That's a little bit hot rod that you can see bits of the engine there.
And that's exactly what it's supposed to come off of, right? Like we thought about that. We said this is supposed to be kind of like a sports car racing variant of a ship. So we designed the aesthetic to match that. It's got 2 huge thrusters, you know, exposed engines. You can see all the cool stuff. If the whole game's not done yet, you don't know how everything's going to affect everything else. So you try and optimize as you go along.
All that's missing at the moment is some furry dice inside the cockpit.
Yeah, maybe that'll be an addition someday.
Put a bobblehead in there.
Put a bobblehead.
Star Citizen will also allow players to act as part of a crew on much larger spacecraft. These ships and some of the game's explorable environments are much larger in scale than these tiny non-terrestrial transports.
This is a 6-kilometer long ship.
So 6 kilometer long, that's pretty big.
It is pretty big, by far about the biggest thing I've ever worked on. And this is also one of the challenges we're facing because we're trying to keep a certain fidelity going, and we obviously are aiming for high quality. A zoom in onto here that may give you a sense of how big everything is, because it's quite easy to get lost. So this is one of the few landing platforms you have.
That does give you a sense of scale. It's massive.
Absolutely huge.
Star Citizen was first announced in 2012 and is the brainchild of Chris Roberts. In the 1990s, he created the successful Wing Commander series of games. After a stint in Hollywood directing and then producing movies, he's returned to the world of video games. There's a lot of different elements going on. You've got MMO, massively multiplayer online game. You've got spaceship combat, first-person combat, spaceship racing. It's a lot of different genres. How are you integrating all of those together so it doesn't just become like a genre mashup?
So everything basically just starts because it's first person, so it's from your point of view as a character in the universe. And I think that's one of the things that people have the hardest time grasping is that concept. But we just released what we called Star Citizen Alpha 2.0, and that allowed you to sort of see what it would be like where you're, running around on foot on this space station. You can get into a spaceship, a big spaceship if you want, with your friends, fly various, like hundreds of thousands of kilometers, land on another space station or various other areas, asteroids.
But the time it's taking to realise the grand vision of this title has provoked criticism online. So the studios themselves are now finding new ways of working in order to get Star Citizen ready for release. You've got different studios in different, not just in different cities, but in different countries as well.
We
so
do.
Does that affect the workflow in any way,
Oh.
with time differences and things of that nature?
Absolutely. We're trying to achieve this massive game across all these studios, 260 plus employees, and each of us impact each other in a very grand way because it is one game. The challenges are very apparent, but it allows us to be more versatile because it's kind of this idea of follow the sun development. We're never asleep. We're always making Star Citizen.
Yeah.
And so that allows us really cool opportunities of, say, we couldn't fix, let's talk small, fix a little bug, this bug that we really wanted to fix for a release. But we couldn't get it done in Austin. We tried and we tried and we tried, couldn't figure it out. So we sent it over to the UK when we went to bed. They could pick it up in the morning. And then when they get home, when we get to work, we sit down and they say the same thing. All right, we did knock that one out, but it created this one. Help us with this one. And it's this cool 24/7 shop. And it makes it challenging, but it also, I think, allows us to be more versatile and get things done faster.
They say money never sleeps, games design never sleeps.
Got it. Absolutely.
Games development never
Absolutely.
sleeps. Do you think other people that have got a AAA game in development or a AAA game idea are sitting watching what you're doing and watching it very, very closely?
I don't know. I mean, probably. I mean, I don't know. I watch other people and what they do, right?
Yeah.
So I think the industry is very much like that. I use it to spur myself and the team on. Like if we see something, we go, look, our characters have to look at least this good or better than this, or we got to have this on, like our procedural planets have to be better than this. I definitely think that the model of sort of open development, directly sort of interacting with your community is something that probably a fair amount of people are interested in, because obviously they can sort of see what it enables, because we're essentially getting to make a game of a sort of scale and ambition that we probably wouldn't be able to make normally.
The size and scope intrinsically means challenging. On top of the fact that we're trying to do something that's never been done before. In a lot of ways, the technology in this game is very unique.
No pressure.
No pressure, hey, easy. But anytime somebody goes to make something that's never been done before, the challenges that come with it are grand. Even if you bring in the experts, sometimes they still have to make it up as they go until they figure out that's the best way to do it. All right, lock it in, on to the next.
But moving on to the next is taking some time. This game is delayed.
One of the oxymorons of like crowdfunding is that you have, you're asking for money to make this game. You don't know how much money you're going to get. And, unless you just want to pocket the rest of the money, which isn't my thing at all. I want to make the best game possible. So if you're in the game business, like games get cancelled all the time, games get pushed back, schedules, and by the time you hear about the game, it's probably, been in development 3 years and already had a whole bunch of delays. But that's, I guarantee you, is not the first time it got pushed back. You just didn't know about it. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I know from when I was at EA or, working with Microsoft, making games where like loads of games got cancelled, loads of games got pushed back. Things always took much longer than everyone thought, but the general public just isn't aware of them.
At ease, pilots. It's been a difficult campaign. We have 2 big targets left. 6,000 clicks out. Alpha Wing, I'll be needing a hit Kickstarter. Beta Wing, you'll be swarming the RSI pledge site.
And I think maybe on the crowdfunding side, we can all do a better job about that. I definitely, if I was crowdfunding again, I think I would be more, I would like spell this out more, which would be like, okay, if we're getting more money and the scope changes, the timeline is going to change.
We need all of you.
In the world of social media where everybody has an opinion and everybody is keen to let you know their opinion, is it a double-edged sword having that amount of communication with the audience?
Well, there's definitely a downside to it because, you basically, we have about just over 1 million people that have kind of, signed on support Star Citizen. And, there is a certain amount of you have 1 million game designers and a million armchair developers and 1 million CEOs. But honestly, I would say in general, I would take the positives over the negatives any day of the week, because most of the community is incredibly supportive and positive, and a lot of them have really good ideas, because traditional development, you're pretty shielded. So some of the, like an artist here who works really hard on a ship and they're really proud of it, and 95% of the people could love the ship,
yeah,
but there'll be 5% of the people that are like, I don't like that, or that looks silly, or whatever.
We take on criticism. I think it's just that you become a little more thick. You don't take it to heart, basically. They want to know where their money is going. Obviously, we've raised over $100 million, so they do have a right to know what the processes that go in.
As well as Star Citizen's persistent universe, it will also feature a single-player, story-driven game called Squadron 42. The player assumes the role of a rookie pilot fighting in a war against some unfriendly aliens. So in Squadron 42, which is what is being developed here in Manchester, there's some of your trademarks that will appear in that game.
Yeah.
One of those trademarks, I suppose, is movie stars.
Well, some of you may be asking why undertake such a thing.
When I did Wing Commander 3 and 4, we shot Mark Hamill and John Rhys Davis and the rest of the cast, and as like sort of movie scenes, mini movie scenes that would play depending on how the game unfolded and how you sort of won the, whether you won the missions or lost the missions.
They were some of the earliest games to use recognisable faces, that people.
No, it was fun.
Movie stars that people knew. One of some of the earliest games to do
I had a great time doing it.
Roberts has assembled a starry cast for the single player. While Hamill and Rhys Davis appear in Squadron 42, it also features Gary Oldman, Mark Strong, and Gillian Anderson.
But I am here to tell you that we are at war!
We shot last year at Ealing Studios in London. We shot for about 3.5 months and did this really long shoot. It was like 66 days, which was a longer shoot than I've done for any movie I've done.
What are we going to see in the next year and the next year after that?
Well, so I mean, we've so 2.0 is like a really great bone for what we call the persistent universe. So we're starting to layer on additional sort of game features and functionalities, like going down to a planet and landing in an area. And so we'll sort of flesh out a star system, and then towards the end of the year we'll open up so you can go visit some other star systems. And that's sort of existing in our sort of online universe. And then in parallel we're working on Squadron 42. So we're aiming to have that done by the end of this year. So everyone's working really hard to get us there.
Ambitious and controversial in equal measure. If nothing else, this game proves that reaching for the stars is never going to be easy.